Hey everybody, happy Monday and welcome to this week's Q&A. As always, I have questions from the community, either DM'd me or dropped in some of the comments, and I will go through the answers. So we'll dive right in. So first question is around the offer. And the scenario is, I've been in my role for only a year and want to change. How do I position that on my resume? And so this is, again, the scenario of you took a new role and maybe it wasn't exactly what you were thinking, what the idea was, and you kind of want to swap out in a year. And a year is short. Like 2 years is generally fine. A 1 year would be kind of on the shorter side. And so you're probably going to get the question of what happened? Why were you only here for a year? And obviously it depends on your specific circumstances. But what you want to do, and the goal with all of these interview type questions or offer type questions is you're creating a narrative in my head, and you want that narrative to look good, right? You don't want it to have red flags. You want me to go, wait, is this person going to quit my job after a year? And so one of the ways you can do that is make it about a year commitment, right? Because if it was upfront, sort of agreed as a year, and then you sort of do a checkpoint and you decide to do something else, that makes sense to most people. So this idea of, you work at a big company, you go to a small company. Well, I was talking to a recruiter, they had this opportunity. I'm not sure if I really want the small company aspect. So I agreed to kind of come from a year, help them build out this practice. And after a year, I realized that I did my job, I got them up and running, but I really want to be back in a large company, right? So you kind of make it as an experiment or a year commitment. And so that's this idea of as much as you can. I was brought in to have a mission. The mission was to do a technology shift. The mission was to build a function. The mission was to do whatever. And with the idea that I would reevaluate out of the year. I did this new thing. I reevaluated after a year, and I want something different, right? That's kind of the most straightforward. If there is a real issue, you can be transparent about it. Be like, well, I thought this company was this. Turns out that they weren't. So I'm looking for, again, culture or, market or whatever it was. Like I learned that the company wasn't who they purport to be. That is also okay because then they kind of lied a little bit, right? And so again, the idea is it's not you, is what the hiring manager is concerned about. Because if it's you, are you going to leave me after a year, right? Because it's not about you, it's about them, it's about their problem. And the hiring manager has a problem, and I'm filtering candidates. I have a ton of them, so I'm filtering them for any red flags. So you might leave after a year, you might quit, you might do this. So that's the main thing you're trying to do, is not put that idea into their head. So you want to have a consistent story about why in this case it was a year, and that was kind of an exception case because that's not normally what you're going to do, and it's not going to happen in this job because of X, Y, and Z. Like that's what you are trying to do, is make sure you're reassuring the hiring manager that it won't happen here because this was a special scenario. So one option is it was a new experiment. It was a year. You kind of had that up front. You had this idea, try it out. Or there was something kind of wrong with the company that wasn't as advertised, are kind of the two major ways to do that. But again, having a consistent story, again, not being, well, I just got bored. It sucked. I wanted to leave. Well, because again, are you going to do that here? That's the question that the hiring manager is asking in their own head. So you want to have a good answer to that question. Okay. So next up is around the leads. When cold networking, how often to follow up? So my standard recommendation here is it's 3 points, 3 contacts. It's just a good safe number. You can use it all the time, which is first one, hey, so and so, I see we're both in this. I'd love to get 15 minutes to ask you some questions, whatever your opening is, right? You don't hear back. And here, depending on what your timeline is, like you can give it, if it's urgent, maybe a week. If it's really like about a referral or something, it could be like 3 or 4 days, right? If it's just about networking, it could be maybe a week to 2 weeks between these, right? All depends. Like months is too far because they'll totally forget about your first one, right? So, I would say 2 weeks on the outset, depending on how, if you're really trying to get like a company because you're applying and you want a referral, like you can do it after a couple of days. But it's one is, hey, I'd love to actually reach out for this reason. Here's the kind of what's in it for you. Would love to just get in contact with you. Two is, I just want to follow up. I sent you a note last week. See if any chance you have anything. Appreciate the consideration, Drew. But just a quick follow up, short and sweet. You can kind of forward it on or just send another message. Quick follow up. And the third one is, hey, seems like you're really busy. Totally understand. I'm good. Would love to talk to you if I ever get a chance, but appreciate it. Won't bother you again. You don't say it exactly that way, but basically you're implying like, okay, I tried 3 times. You said no. I'd love it if you pick this up months later. Like, please contact me. So you want to leave it open ended, but effectively imply that okay, I'm done. Right. So that third one, and again, if you want specific examples of these, let me know, and I'm happy to kind of share them in the community. But basically, hey, would you want to talk? Hey, I sent you a message last week. Just want to see if you saw it. I understand you might be busy, but would love to chat with you. And then the third one is, hey, guess this isn't a good time. No worries. I totally get it. I'm not upset at all. But I would love to talk to you in the future. Wishing you the best, Drew. Right. So 1, 2, 3. That's works basically every time. There are other models. Don't worry about them. But if you need something, 3. Right. Opening, follow up, close the loop with a option for the future. Right. So that's kind of how I would suggest that, particularly with cold networking. Works with warm networking too. Although warm networking, you couldn't go back in another 6 months, but cold, I would do the 3. All right, next up, interviews. Okay, the comment is, I see there are like 100 different questions in the interview prep session. So that's if you've gone to the library and you see, the interview questions. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Do I need a unique story for each? Definitely not. And please don't do that. Right? You don't want 100 stories. What you want is 5 to 10 macro stories or situations that can answer everything. And what I mean by that is, the story is the specific angle that you're telling around a situation, but you only need 5 to 10, situations, or I have to come up with a better word for that, but like scenarios where we launch this new product. That would be a scenario or a situation. And so that's a good story. It was a great success story. We sold lots of product. It went really well. I got all this good stuff. Good. That is one scenario that you have. Now, tell me about a time you had a challenging technical difficulty. I'm sure in this product launch, there's some technical difficulty. Tell me about a time you had to negotiate with a team member. Is there a time in here where you have to negotiate with a team member? Probably. Tell me about a time you had to engage with customers and get feedback. Once again, here. And so the idea is you have the scenario and you can answer 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 different questions all based on this one scenario. And so that idea is you want that scenario and you want 5 to 10 of these scenarios: project A, project B, project C. The time I developed a new function from scratch, I had a lot of hiring and stuff in there. The time I developed a training program for these people. The time I did that executive training program and we had to go and do pitches to various, leadership around the world, whatever, right? And those are the scenarios. And then the idea is you just need 5 or 10 of those, and you can answer 10 to 20 questions of each scenario. Suddenly you can cover 100 questions, right? Without having 100 different scenarios, because you're going to lose track of, did I talk about this? Did I talk about that one? You're going to go to your B stories, right? So you're going to go to things that just aren't as impactful because you're like trying to be different. It is totally okay to reuse stories. So tell me about a time that you had, your biggest technical challenge. This product release, it was super technical. Tell me about a time that you had to deal with a difficult customer. Well, it turns out, I mean, I told you earlier about this technical challenge. Well, that wasn't the only problem with this release. We actually, this one client, it was really difficult. So let me tell you how we resolved that and got them on board. So I just, same exact scenario, and then I reused it, right? And that's totally okay because you're building on the impact of that scenario by telling multiple stories. So again, as you're doing prep, 5 to 10 core scenarios and make sure that you can answer many different questions about each one. And then you kind of think about which are the most impactful and you want to bring those up. And, and this is where the art comes in, right? Because if you told 2 stories, you don't want to tell 5 stories, right? But 2 is fine. 3 is okay. Don't go more than 3. Bounce around, like tell at least 3 or 4 of the different major scenarios. But the small set of really good stories will satisfy almost any interview you get involved in. So again, don't have 20 different scenarios because you're going to lose track of them. Have 5 to 10 and just make sure you can talk about different aspects of them. And by doing that, you're going to cover all the different interview questions that you're going to get, or at least 99% of the time. You can make up the other 1%. All right, next up, it's in the results category. So I've been doing some AI work in my spare time. How do I get that aligned to my job, which doesn't have any direct alignment right now? So this is a very common scenario right now, which is I have my day job. I'm learning about AI. I want to do something with AI. How do I get that into my day job? And once again, here is just to be creative And there are basically two major paths you can think about here. So one is your company doing anything AI related? If so, can you attach yourself to that? Oh, we're setting up an AI committee or an AI center of excellence. Go talk to those people. See if you can you can be the local representative. See if you can get involved in the group, right? Having, oh, I'm part of the AI experimentation group at my company, even though it's not technically part of your day job, it is a formal role and that counts. So just volunteer, get involved on something formal, because there's a huge difference between, hey, I took the Coursera AI course or I took the AWS AI, certification, to I was on our, experiments working group at company X. Because if it's at company X, that's a formal title. Somebody else put you on there or agreed to have you on there. So it sort of adds a lot more oomph to that role because it's real, as opposed to, hey, I did some training. Everybody's doing training. I don't know if you really got it. I have no proof that you are any good at it. Try to do that. The second one is think of how AI can apply to your job and just start doing it, right? Just build, and I have a couple clients who are doing this right now. They're just building tools experimentally with AI that they think will help their function. And then they're going to tell their boss, hey, boss, I built this thing. I think it's going to help in this scenario. What do you think? And then you just add it to your resume. Like, oh, built out an AI prototype using blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I did that as part of my role, right? So no one's going to stop you, right? So when you're doing your day job, so when you're doing all this stuff, no one's going to stop you as long as you have access and all that wonderful stuff. So, don't necessarily go rogue, but if your company allows you to use AI, apply it to your job. Figure out a way to do that and then share it with others. Right? So there's a lot of opportunity here because AI is one of those easy ones that will impact everything. So if you want to add AI to your current job function, again, join some corporate group, that's one way, or just start doing something and start sharing it with others and say, hey, I've been experimenting. I tried this. It worked really well. What do you think? Right. So just do it. And then the point is you want it somewhere on your resume as a formal part of your role, because that will be much, much more impactful than, hey, I took some courses and I did stuff on my own. That's great. But again, there's no validation of that, right? So as a hiring manager, I don't know. Some people take those courses and they don't really do anything with them. Some people are really good at it. So how do I know which one you are? Which is why you want to get it as part of your role, because it just immediately gives that uh, heft and reality to that. Even if it is expendable group, even if they don't really do anything, it just comes across as much more effective because it is under a corporate umbrella. Okay, so that's what I would say around AI at the moment. And then the last question for today is, again, a scenario around results. So I tend to say yes to executives whenever they ask me to do something, very common. Uh, but then I have too many things and invariably miss one. How do I get better at that? So this is the classic case of saying yes to too many things and then falling a little behind. And, a couple of things to do here is one is, and this is just a good practice overall, is making sure you have some sort of equivalent of a commitment register. Like, what have you promised, particularly when you're going up and out, right? You can do this for everybody, but particularly when it comes to the executives, who asked you to do what? And there should be kind of a register of, okay, this executive asked me for this one asked me for this committee, here are the 7 things that I have that I've committed to. You want to have that written down because, again, you have to manage what they think you're doing, right? Here's what I do all day. Here's what they think I do, right? As you go up in your career, I talked about this before, you have to manage what they think you do. That is just as important as what you're actually doing, because relationships and perception matter that much more as you become more senior executive. So you have to get used to, well, what do they think I'm doing? And making sure you're managing that. So if you have this commitment register is minimum, right? Just say, here's everything I've committed to and track it and don't lose it and make sure that's part of your daily, if not weekly cycle, right? Of, okay, what are all the commitments I have? And then make sure you beat them, right? That's the other thing is don't be late. If you made a commitment, don't be late. And whatever you need to do there, pad yourself, give you have a personal deadline of 3 days before the deadline you told them. There are many ways to do this, but you have to kind of force yourself to make sure you never miss a deadline when you give it to an executive. That's just a very important thing. And also you can learn so that's one half is track whenever you say yes. The other half is learn to not immediately answer a yes or no if you get yourself in trouble by saying yes. Adrian, can you take care of this? Oh yeah, no problem. And let him, oh yeah, little problem, because I don't know that I can do that. So pause, just take a breather, either in the moment or even take back. Okay, I got it. So let me just make sure I understand what you need. You need blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. I think we can do it, but let me go back and validate, just check with the team, check with this, check with that, and I will get back to you at the end of the day. I'll get back to you tomorrow morning with an ETA on when we can get that done, right? So again, pause, validate, and then come back later with something that you can meet. Okay, sounds good. Let me take a look at it. I think we can probably do that in the next week, but let me validate. I'll get back to you end of day. Oh, I looked at it, talk to the team. We actually have these other two priorities that just came in from these other people. So I think I can do it, but it will be next Friday, not next Wednesday. Is that okay? And you want to get in the practice of kind of negotiating and give yourself a little bit of padding. Because again, the rule is don't be late, right? If you made a commitment, you need to be consistent with that commitment. So keep a register, make sure you know what they are, and then just stop saying yes immediately. If that's a habit of yours, just you're not allowed to say yes. All you can say is, I think that sounds reasonable. Let me go back and just double check with the team, or let me review the other priorities and make sure, and I'll give you a sort of more stronger confirmation later today, right? And you can kind of negotiate that, but the idea is you need to give yourself buffer because missing it just chips away at your, sort of again, this executive presence, your image as somebody who's like, well, they're usually pretty good, but remember those couple times they were late. You just want to get that off the table. So that's what I would say. If you say yes to too many things, one, don't lose them, track them. Two, say yes to less things. Pause, give yourself a little more time. If you normally would say, oh, sure, of course, I'll get you that in the morning, say, sure, I'll get you that at the end of the week. Just give yourself a little more time. No one complains if you're early. So if you said end of week and it's tomorrow, no one's going to sort of complain. But if you said tomorrow and it turns out to be end of week, yeah, they care. So again, make sure you have that buffer. So hope that, again, this is a whole other topic we could dive into, but hope that helps as a very sort of high level approach to it. There we go. So those are the questions for this week. As always, if you have any, just send me a DM or drop a post in the community or a comment, and we'll do this again next week. So everybody has an awesome week, and we will see you in the community.